Hi color kids, this is Katie Carty-Hiley from RainbowBrite.net. Welcome back to the Rainbow Land Museum and welcome to a spoiler-filled video talking about issue number 2 of the new Rainbow Brite comic from Dynamite. And if you have not gotten your own copy yet, you should totally go do that before you watch this video because I'm going to be talking about what happens in it. And you don't want me to tell you, you want to see it for yourself. Like, trust me, I know these things. It's out in your local comic shop right now, November 14th. That's the release date. If it's not there, they can order it for you. There are places online you can get it, but support your local shops if you can. Okay. And also, if you're going to be getting these monthly like I am, get it put on a pull list so they will just order it for you automatically. It'll be there the day it comes out every month. Won't have to worry about it being out of stock or just that they didn't order it or any of that nonsense. It'll just be there. Like magic. Like Rainbow Brite magic. Okay, anyway. I am not going to be showing any of this one to you because I think it would just give away too much. So what I've done is I've written some notes and I'm going to go over my notes. So if you want to see the artwork, apart from the cover, I mean, you've seen that. But if you want to see the interior artwork, you're going to need to pick up this comic. And you're going to want to. Trust me. And for nothing else than for the end. But there's so much in between the beginning and the end. That's amazing. You want this. You want this. So, part of the things I'm going to be talking about are throwbacks to things I said about issue number 1, but most of this is actually talking about content from this issue number 2, because it's just so much content. I wasn't expecting to get so much information. I feel like the first one was a lot more of a setup and just figuring out who the main characters were, what their motivations were, what was going on, what was the drama, and then getting to Rainbow Land. Now that we're there, it's like, oh, now stuff's getting real. So we get a lot of info in a short space of time, which is amazing and excellent, and I need all the info, so thank you. Thank you for putting so much into this. Not a lot of characters introduced in this one, but there are a few, so stay tuned. Here we go. One thing I had mentioned in my previous video about issue 1 that bothered me a bit was Twink's eyebrows, just the way they were drawn. He looked kind of angry all the time. That's actually better in issue number 2. There was maybe one time where he looked a little angrier than maybe what he was saying or trying to convey, but overall, anytime his eyebrows were looking angry or exasperated, it's because he was. Whereas in the first one, I felt like there were a couple of times where what he was saying didn't match the mood on his face. But I'd say in this one, 90% of the time, or 95, whatever, almost all of the time, his expression matches what he's saying, and he's just even cuter and funnier. He's quickly becoming a favorite character. He's just hilarious. So, okay, there are massive shadow hounds in issue number 2. These are dogs that used to just be dogs, but apparently they've always been huge. It's not that the King of Shadows, when he turned them into shadow hounds, also made them humongous. It's, according to Twink anyway, they already were humongous, or at least the one they run into, but he just turned them kind of evil, and they are sniffing out color is what they're able to do, and if they find it, they are bringing it back to the King of Shadows so that it can be disposed of or whatnot. So that's the first, like, big bad monster that Wisp and Twink run into in Rainbow Land, which looks a lot like the shadow monsters that we encountered on Earth in issue 1. It's got the glowing red eyes, and it's a big shadowy dog. It's kind of terrifying. But yeah, so they run away, they hide in some leaves, like camouflage their colors so that it can't sense them, and then it gets scared off by another character, who I'll talk about in a minute, making some noise. So I want to say, well, 2 things real quick about the dog. They kept calling him Doggy, which was hilarious. Like, what's wrong with that doggy? How can we help that doggy? It was really cute. But the fact that they are just that big, when they turn good again, Like, are they going to be the size of a horse? I don't know, because that dog was basically the size of a horse. So I'm like, okay, does that mean like some killer kids could ride on horses? I mean, not horses. Dogs? This time around, maybe? Like, we know that Rainbow Brite's gonna have Starlight. We've already seen him on an upcoming cover. I think it's issue number 4. So we know he's coming. He's not in issue 2. I'm sorry. But I'm sure they will encounter him soon. But I'm like, if these dogs in Rainbow Land can get to be this big, just normally, then maybe they can be a mode of transportation. I'm thinking like Battle Cat from He-Man, but it's a dog. Maybe they just encountered Puppy Brite, and we don't know it. He's just really big this time instead of little. But it was an interesting thought that went through my head. So there you go. The banter between Wisp and Twink is, I think I might have already mentioned this, but it's just hysterical, just like in the first issue. It keeps getting better. Twink's vocabulary is amazing. It cracks me up. He uses all of these big words that a typical child's comic or book would not use. But it's not because he's trying to be hard to understand. That's just the way he talks. And I think it's a great learning opportunity actually for kids to learn these big words. They're going to be reading it either by themselves or with a parent. And if they come across a word they don't know, they'll be like, hey, what does this word mean? And then they learn a word. So that's cool. Like, I'm all for teaching kids vocabulary. We need more than just, hey, sup, good, you know, we need more than text speak, and in our children's vocabulary. So that's awesome. I love that. And then we meet Murky Dismal. So that's the character that makes the noise that scares off the big shadow hound, and he goes running. So they're like, okay, we're safe from that monster, but what's up with this guy? Thankfully, they don't encounter him in that moment. They're like hiding behind the trees while he is shouting about his vehicle that has broken down on him. Now, the vehicle, it's definitely reminiscent of the grunge buggy. The shape of it is similar. It's got the big back wheels, the smaller front ones. It is all black and grays, but it's got windows this time. It's not just an open buggy like the old grunge buggy was. But the headlights are just where they were in the old one. And it's got these big, like, mufflers or something on the back. I don't know what they are. Something that makes it go fast, I'm sure. But it's not called the grunge buggy anymore. It's called, where is it? The Dismobile, which is kind of a fun word, actually. Like, when I first read it, I was like, Dismobile? But when I said it out loud, like, dismal, like, Dismobile, then I'm like, oh, okay, that's clever. That's funny. But it is a change. I just want to warn you. But again, the car itself looks different. It's got, like I said, windows, glass, like windshield wiper, things I did not have before. So it's definitely an upgrade. So maybe they got rid of the grunge buggy and they replaced it with this. I don't know. But apparently it was up to Lurky to fix something that was wrong with it, and he did a bad job, and it broke down on Murky, and he is not having it because he was collecting things that still had color in them to take back to his laboratory, because apparently he has developed a device that can pull the color out of something and convert that into energy. Then he uses that energy to power all of his machines. So once again, he is a mad scientist, just like he was in the original series, but he's actually like a competent one now, so far anyway. And he does look completely different. Maybe I shouldn't say completely, but he's like grown man is what he looks like now, not little angry man-child with mustache. Like, I don't even think he has any facial hair. And his skin is still green, but it's like a brighter green. It's instead of that kind of muted mint-ish, grayish green. Yeah, it's like green, but it's cool. I actually kind of dig it. And he's wearing just this cool, it's not really a suit, but it's just a gray and black outfit with, like, it's got knee pads on, and I didn't even bring the comic into this room with me because I knew I would be tempted to open it up and show you all the things, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it! You need to see this for yourself. It's just me opening up and showing you a little, it wouldn't do it justice. It just wouldn't. You need to see this, and you need to read it, because I'm just going through some highlights here, but there's a lot more going on in between. It's good dialogue, it's good story, it's good everything, good art. But he also has some hair on the top of his head, like the old Murky Dismal. We saw him without his hat like a couple of times. I think he was either completely bald or he was like bald on top and maybe had some hair around the side. This time he has no hair on the sides, but he has like a mohawk kind of deal. But it's more floppy. It doesn't stick straight up, but it's just this tuft of black hair on the top that's kind of long, and it's actually kind of cool. I like it. I dig it. And because his vehicle has broken down, he needs another way to get back to his laboratory and fuss at Lurky. So he has a jetpack, which is cool, and it works. He straps it on, and boom, he's out of there. So I like the fact that Murky actually invents things that work this time around. I mean, maybe there will be some inventions down the line that just completely implode or do something ridiculous, like or get broken really easily, like we were used to in the old cartoon. But so far, I'm liking the fact that he's actually good at his job. Oh, and he's, I think, like part cybernetic now. At least his eyes. One of them he can like turn into a little like microscope looking thing. It kind of just goes out and gets smaller. Yeah, and then later on, it's like the thing is not sticking out anymore, and it's like he closes his eyes, but it's like metal. It's really hard to describe, I'm sorry. But I think he has cybernetic eyes, and maybe he has other cybernetic parts, so maybe he's got some like Darth Vader-ish things going on. I don't know, but I think it's cool that mad scientists would have cybernetic anything. So that just adds to his coolness and his interesting aesthetic this way around. Yeah, I think I told you everything about the Dismobile. So then Twink and Wisp are talking about science, because Twink is telling her that Murky is a mad scientist and how he uses all of his knowledge for evil and is very selfish and uses it all for his own gain. And I love Wisp says something about, but science can be good. It can be used to make medicine. And Twink's like, it can be, but he doesn't use it that way. But I just love little things thrown in like that. Like, science is good. We need science. Science is important to the world. So yay for just a quick little STEM plug in that line. I appreciated that. And then, okay, this is cute. So in the first issue, I keep wanting to call them episodes. I apologize if I let that word slip. I mean issue anytime I say episode. In the first issue, we learn that his name is Twinkle. But in this issue, she starts calling him Twink. And at one point he's like, excuse me, friend Wisp, but it seems you are mispronouncing my name. It is Twinkle, and you keep saying Twink. And she has to explain what a nickname is, and that she had just started calling him that because she thought it was cute. But she's like, but I don't have to call you that. I can call you Twinkle if you like. But once she explains that it's kind of a term of endearment, then he's like, oh, I like that. It's a sense of camaraderie. I'll take it. So he's like Twink from now on, at least to her. So I love that he's being called Twink again. Yay. I know in my interview with Jeremy he had already said that, but I love that we're seeing that already here in issue 2. So he's Twink again, and that makes me happy. I love the continued use of muted colors in the majority of the panels. It's a lot like the first one, where most everything is dull and gray, and I mean, it's supposed to be, because the whole land is gross right now. But it just makes the panels where there are bright colors, like behind them, or something like going on that has to do with color, it just makes it pop that much more. So I love that. Again, in a comic about Rainbow Brite, you would think it'd be really easy to overuse color, and so far they are doing the opposite. It's really interesting to watch. But yeah, great job on the colors. Great job. So I also want to point out the lettering is amazing. It was amazing in the first one, but I love it in this one too. Some of the time it's just certain phrases or names are bold, so it's like you can tell the inflection that the person is trying to get across when they are saying this thing. But there's this one section that's so interesting, and again, I don't read a lot of comics, I've admitted that, so maybe this is used more often than I think, but I don't remember seeing it before, and it's cool. So there's kind of a bit of exposition where Twink is telling Wisp kind of the history a little bit of what's been going on, gives her some information about how they can save the world. I mean, right now she's just concerned about how do we save the doggy? How do we make him good again? But eventually these are going to lead to saving Rainbow Land and the Color Guardians and such like that. But he's doing some backstory, and the way they do it, instead of just showing his face talking at you, they show kind of what he's seeing in his head as he's talking, and then the lettering, it's like in rectangular boxes, and it'll be red behind. I think it's when Twink talks, it's red, and when Wisp says something in return, it's blue behind it. I mean, behind the actual letters is white, but behind the box, there's like a little bit of blue or a little bit of red to delineate who's talking. And it's used really well, and it's just kind of over to the side, so it's not impeding the pictures and the panels, but it gets across what's happening, and it allows the artist, so a couple of the panels almost look like they are from issue 1. Like, I don't think they're directly taken from issue 1, but they're similar to things we've seen in issue 1. So it's kind of a, remember back on your world, it looked like this. And then on our world, this thing is going on, and it's able to show that thing that's going on, even though they are not there watching that thing going on. Or it's like, this is what it looks like in the past, and this is what it's like now, kind of thing. But it's just what Twink is remembering in his head. But it's a really great way to show other things going on in the world around them without them having to be there to witness it. And a great way to get a lot of information across to the reader in a short amount of time. So I just thought it was brilliant. Great job on the lettering and fitting all that in, and yeah, just all of that. It's great. I love that there are differences in the sprites this time around. We do get to see, during these panels, some blue sprites, and they don't all look identical for once. Like in the old show, like, I mean, maybe one would be holding a hammer and another would be holding a shovel, but they all looked exactly the same except for Twink, obviously. But like all the red sprites looked like red sprites, all the orange sprites, it was just a difference in their hair color, but otherwise you couldn't tell them apart. But this time they have different features. So like one had a little goatee, one had a bandage on his cheek, one was wearing glasses. So there was going to be ways to differentiate sprites this time around, which I thought was really cool and important because, you know, they have their own distinct personalities and lives that they're living. They're important. They're not just minions. So I love that. I thought that was a great idea. And it kind of reminded me of the Smurfs, because overall, the Smurfs all look the same, but they found small ways to differentiate them, with the glasses, with the little tattoo, with one holding a mirror, or having flowers behind his ear, you know, things like this, so you can tell who's who. So that's cool. It didn't mention any names of them, but it didn't need to in the context, but maybe later on we will find out some names of other sprites. We'll see. But I will admit that this, or one of the panels where Twink is talking about how this works, how the power works between, let's see, there's color prisms, there's power prisms, is there another term? Color prisms, power prisms, and just prisms. There were just some terminology, and then they would say land, and then they would say world, and it was a little confusing as to what was happening where, but I think I figured it out. I think. I emailed Jeremy, so if he gets back to me and says, no, Katie, that's completely wrong, I'll let you know. But let me tell you what I think they mean, just in case you're confused. And it's not one of those things you have to know right now. It's not important right now. I'm sure that they will show it and explain it later on when we get to that point. So if you want to just take a wait and see attitude and ignore what I say right now, feel free. But I was interested. I like to dissect things and figure out what they could mean. So this is my version of that. Let's see here. So there's a central color prism of each land on Rainbow Land. So I'm assuming that each color has its own land in Rainbow Land. We don't know the name of those lands yet, but we'll just say blue land, red land for argument's sake. So each one of the colored lands has a color prism. That's like capital C, capital P, I think. I mean, it's all in caps in comic lettering, so I'm guessing these are like the proper terms for these things. And those are, as far as I can tell, like cosmically linked with the power prisms that reside within each world. Like throughout the universe, each world has a power prism in it. And it said like in the heart of the world, I think. So like in the core or, in the mantle somewhere, these worlds have power prisms. Now, when the color prisms on Rainbow Land are, they didn't say broken, but if they're not charged up, if there's no power going to them, then the power prisms on other worlds also start to lose power and lose color. So like back on Earth, things were already starting to get drab and gray, and that's why. It's because on Rainbow Land, all of the color prisms, right, it seems at the moment have already either maybe not lost all of their power, but most of it, or it's been drained probably by the King of Shadows, because Rainbow Land is completely just monochromatic for the most part. So that's starting to affect the other worlds. But it sounds like, yeah. And then there's like, the colored prisms are not attached to, but it seems like when they are charged up, that that light shines from them to a color prism over the Rainbow Castle. I'll get to that in a moment. It's not the color castle anymore, it's Rainbow Castle. Whatever, that when the colors from the color prisms shoot to I'm assuming the clear color prism over the Rainbow Castle, that sends out all the power to all the power prisms around the universe, I think. But to me, it seems like an instant thing. Like, it's not like the light has to shoot out of the castle through space, through the entire universe. I'm thinking more like quantum entanglement, where it's just an instantaneous, like, charged up, great, all the worlds are charged up and colorful again. We'll see. But that's my understanding or my interpretation. We'll see if I'm right or not. But I thought it was interesting. And also talking about the prisms on top of the different lands that like shine light to the Rainbow Castle. That reminded me a lot of the 2009 webisode Trouble in Rainbow Land, if you remember that one. It's probably on YouTube. Actually, it's on my website too, I think, under the old websites, because it was a rainbowbrite.com thing years ago. That was back in 2009, if I didn't already say that. But yeah, in that case, it was still all one big castle. They had a bunch of different turrets, and above each turret was like a glowing gem of a different color, and they would shoot light at the clear one in the center, and then it would shoot a rainbow up. So in my head, I'm seeing something like that, but I'm guessing just spread out a lot on a much larger scale throughout all the different lands. So that's going to be really interesting to see. So the sprites, they still mine prisms, not color crystals as far as I can tell. They are mining prisms. And I don't even think it's power prisms, it's just prisms. So there's going to be some new terminology, I think, to get used to, but that is still their job. And Twink mentions that is their cosmic duty. And he says, the sprites, my people, the sprites, it's our cosmic duty to make sure the prisms are powered up and do all this. So, okay. And it shows them like in a mine with a mine cart full of colored rocks, prisms, something. So, we'll see. But I thought that was cool. And there was a great line about, the world needs color for joy and for I don't remember, but it mentioned, you know, like diversity, and I was just like, yes, it does. So again, it's not hitting you over the head with anything, but it's just like, color is important, differentiation is important, all the variety of the world is important, and when it works together, it's beautiful. That's why all the colors are needed to make a rainbow. Okay. I'm going to pause this because I'm sure I'm not going to get through the rest of this without it cutting off on me. I will be right back. Y'all know I can't get through these comics quickly. I'm sorry, they're just so exciting and I have so much to say. So then Twink starts talking about the legendary hero Rainbow Brite. Because again, Wisp is asking, okay, who can fix this if the color guardians aren't there, because they've all been captured and the color mines have been sealed. So the King of Shadows is taken over at this point, and Murky and Lurky, I didn't mean to say Lurky yet. We were getting there, but whatever. Yes, Lurky's there too. They're his henchmen. Basically, he's allowing them to do what they're doing. They're not really helping him so much as just, he's like, yeah, go do your thing. Get rid of more color. Great. Stay out of my hair, probably, is what he's thinking. But yeah, so Twink is talking about this legendary hero. So legend, like old thing that hasn't been around for a while, called Rainbow Brite, who is the wielder of the Rainbow Belt. Not color belt. The wielder of the Rainbow Belt, who can unite all of the color prisms and use all of their powers to defeat the King of Shadows. Because each color guardian has its own power. Like each color represents a power. I don't know what those are yet. But no one color guardian can defeat the King of Shadows alone. And apparently even all 7 together can't do it. But because they don't have white light. We need white light to get rid of the shadows, is what is being said here. So they're doing kind of a prism in reverse, which is interesting, and I didn't know that was a thing, but it actually is. I'll even put a link to a video about it, because, you know, if you put white light into a prism, a rainbow comes out the other side, but also if you put all the different colors of light into a prism, white light will come out the other side. Who knew? I'm learning science! Yay! Over in Wasp, or The Unstoppable Wasp, which is another series that Jeremy Whitley writes for, they actually do like interviews with female scientists and put them in the issues. So I would love for that to happen actually with Rainbow Brite, and have some scientists, male and female, just talk about spectrums and rainbows and light and Isaac Newton and all his experiments that taught us all these things and all things we've learned since then, and it'd be cool. Anyway, sorry, getting off on a tangent. But see, maybe I should have brought the book up here so I could get the wording right. But again, I don't want to read it to you. I want you to read it. But basically, he's saying the legend is, or not even the legend is, because he goes on to say that there hasn't been a Rainbow Brite in many years. So obviously there was one in the past before, but there's not one now to unite all of the colors to make the white light to defeat the King of Shadows. And I guess they just haven't needed one, because if there's no huge enemy, then the 7 color guardians are probably able to keep up with the color, or the power, the color prisms that charge the power prisms. Yeah. But when there's a big enemy like this, they need a Rainbow Brite to come in and help. So, yeah, they've been looking for a Rainbow Brite, or Twink has been, I guess, and he thinks that Wisp is Rainbow Brite, and she's like, me? I'm nobody. I don't even, get good grades, or eat my broccoli, or, and I talk too much, and it's really cute. She's just very unassuming and thinks that she has nothing special to offer, but he's like, actually, you were able to see and fight those shadow monsters on Earth, and most people cannot see them. That's usually only denizens of Rainbow Land who have that ability. And she's like, well, I was born on Earth, so how can I? And he's just like, listen, we need your help. Are you gonna help or not? And she's like, okay, fine, I'll help. So it's adorable. I love all of their back and forths, and learning some of the backstory here is fascinating. I know I'm not communicating it all correctly. Again, you need to read this. But another thing that was really cool when he was describing the rainbow brights that have been, I really should have probably typed out that at least little paragraph. But he used the pronoun their, like THEIR. Instead of his or her or she or him, it was their. Like, again, I'm sorry I don't have the sentence it's in, but it's like, it's basically saying the wearer of the color belt is not tied to a gender. So a boy could be Rainbow Brite, a girl could be Rainbow Brite, any other gender in between could be Rainbow Brite. I love that they use the pronoun there instead of she or he or whatever. That's amazing, and I really hope we get to go down like a hall of history in the Rainbow Castle and see like photos of the old Rainbow Brites. I mean, how cool would that be? It would be so cool. And see like some boy Rainbow Brites. I want to see some boy Rainbow Brites. They were all named Rainbow, like that's the name, like the moniker of the hero. But anybody can be named Rainbow Brite. It doesn't have to be a girl's name. Anyway, yes. Oh, and time, I think this has been mentioned, in my interview with Jeremy, that time works differently on Rainbow Land. And he had said that, and it's mentioned a couple of times here in this comic, Twink starts saying it, but then he keeps getting cut off because other more important things are happening that need to be taken care of. So he doesn't get to explain how it works differently. But Jeremy had said in my interview with him, so I'm assuming this is still the case, that time moves faster on Rainbow Land. So, say, for instance, it takes her a month to rescue all the Color Guardians and get the Color Bell and do all these things that need to be done and defeat King of Shadows, and then she goes back to Earth. It may only be a day or two later. So that's interesting and cool to me, which, because I was wondering about that. I'm like, if she just disappears, like, her face is going to be on a milk carton, her mother is going to be so worried. So it's cool that her and maybe even the other Color Guardians can go back and forth, maybe? Maybe they'll spend some time in Rainbow Land doing their job, and then they'll take a vacation or a break and go back and see their families or whatever. Maybe it'll even be like a secret identity, like their family back home won't know that they have this different identity and power in this other world. I don't know. I'm really excited to find out. Let's see. And then we see Murky's Lair, which is actually the thing we saw at the end of issue 1 when they arrive in Rainbow Land and Twink's like, welcome to Rainbow Land, and it's this big ugly metal gray thing. That's not the Color Castle or Rainbow Castle, whatever. That's Murky's Lair is what that is. So they go to Murky's Lair, and also if you look on the front of it, it still looks like a face. If you look for it, it's a little cockeyed, but it's got like 2 windows that look like eyes and kind of a long thing that could be a nose, and the door could be a mouth. So I like that they kept that. I mean, it definitely looks very different from the pits, in the old school Rainbow Brite, but they tried, I think, to at least incorporate some elements of the original, and it's cool. And it totally looks like something that Murky would have thrown together. Like, if you remember his spaceship in Star Stealer, it was just junk on junk on junk, just all nailed together, and somehow it flew through space. I still don't know how that worked, but anyway. But yeah, it totally looks like something that he would make, and I love it. And it's creepy, but not in the same way as the old one almost like Castle Grayskull. It was just this creepy face. So there was always like lightning striking and all this stuff. So this one's just, Anyway, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the different names, because as you have noticed, I keep saying the wrong ones. And that's probably going to continue happening for a long time, because I've been saying the old ones for how many years now? Too many. 34, 35? Oh God. I don't want to think about how old I am. So I'm going to be getting these wrong probably for a while, but I'll run down again. Color Belt is now called the Rainbow Belt. The color castle is now called Rainbow Castle. Color crystals are now called prisms. That, along with the Dismobile, is a lot of name changing to me for one issue. And she's also going to be using a Star Scepter, which I'll get to in a moment. And that's, if you've seen the cover of issue 2, you have already seen her with a scepter. And it looks like the one from the 2009 reboot. Although in the internal art, it does not look exactly the same. It might change later on, I don't know. But it still is a cool looking scepter. But that's something new. And then we know the color kids are now the color guardians. And we know that some of their names are going to be changing too. So, I'm not like angry about this. I don't want to come across as old curmudgeon-y, like, cannot accept change. What are you doing to me? It seems like a lot, and some of it seems unnecessary. So, I'm going to do something I never thought I would do. I'm going to agree with and quote Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. And if you know anything about Harry Potter, she's a horrible, horrible human being who I would never in a million years would agree with. But I kind of agree with her on this point. So I'm just going to read this entire paragraph because even though some of the words she uses aren't applicable, like we're not talking about Hogwarts, we're talking about Rainbow Land, but it'll make sense, I think, in the grand scheme. Every headmaster and headmistress of Hogwarts have brought something new to the weighty task of governing this historic school, and that is as it should be, for without progress there will be stagnation and decay. There again, progress for progress's sake must be discouraged, for our tried and tested traditions often require no tinkering. A balance, then, between old and new, between permanence and change, between tradition and innovation, because some changes will be for the better, while others will come, in the fullness of time, to be recognized as errors of judgment. Meanwhile, some old habits will be retained, and rightly so, whereas others, outmoded and outworn, must be abandoned. Let us move forward, then, into a new era of openness, effectiveness, and accountability, intent on preserving what ought to be preserved, perfecting what needs to be perfected, and pruning wherever we find practices that ought to be prohibited. So, in the end, I do think this will still be recognizable as Rainbow Brite, even though things are being changed. And I'm not even talking about the way things look changing. I expected from the very beginning that things were going to look different, and I'm completely fine with that. Completely fine with the new art style. I'm enjoying it. And if that's what appeals to today's kids, I'm 100% for it because I want them to get into this and to fall in love with Rainbow Brite, just like I did when I was little. But I do hope that these changes are not being treated as progress just for progress's sake. I hope that there are good, well thought out reasons behind these changes that we will understand in time, even though by the end of issue 2 I still don't understand why any of those were changed. Like color kids to color guardians, Jeremy talked about that in our interview, and I had heard people make this mistake as well. When they say color kids, they would sometimes say colored ED kids, and that is not appropriate to say ever. But yeah, so I think that really was just to stop that from being a running joke. Sometimes people would make fun of Rainbow Brite because of that. They'll be, oh, colored kids. It's like, no, they would just get the terminology wrong and then make fun of it, even though they were the ones that were getting it wrong in the first place. But I can understand when you're saying it quickly, when it rolls off the tongue, somebody might hear it wrong and think you say colored kids, which is not a good, just don't use that word, for talking about people, okay? So I understand the color guardians thing. I don't understand why it can't be star sprinkles and color crystals anymore, or just one or the other. It doesn't even need to be both. I don't understand why it has to be prisms now. There could just be white star sprinkles or color crystals to get white light out of or something. I mean, maybe really are trying to push this prism idea where all the colors come together to make the white light, and the white light is what banishes shadows and darkness. Maybe. I'm holding out judgment completely. I'm not gonna say like right now like that was a horrible idea, but because it might in the end be really cool once we see it in action. It's just right now I'm like, really? Did it have to be prisms? Like, it's been color crystals for over 30 years, or star sprinkles, and it's not like those are copyrighted by other properties or used by other properties now. Nobody's going to be getting this confused with something else. It's always been Rainbow Brite terminology, so that's a little weird to me. And why does the color castle have to be the rainbow castle? That might be, because again, there's like the different lands now. Maybe each land is going to have a castle, so maybe there'll be the red castle and the blue castle. I don't know. If that's the case, then color castle may not make as much sense because they are all colors and castles. So if that's what ends up being the case, then rainbow castle does make more sense, and it'll probably actually be a castle that's rainbow colored. That could look cool. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm really interested to find out. So that might eventually make sense. That doesn't, it's not obvious now, but it might be obvious later. And Dismobile, it's fine. I mean, the vehicle looks different enough from the grunge buggy that I'm okay that it's not called the grunge buggy. And the grunge buggy was really grungy. Like, that was one reason it was called that, and this one's not. It's very shiny and new. Oh, and real quick, the headlights on the front that are reminiscent of the headlights that had eyes on them in the old show. In a couple of the panels, I think it's just shadowing, but the shadows make it look like there's still, like, irises in the headlights. So they still kind of look like eyes, even though I don't think they're going to actually be eyes later on. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's a lot of changes at once, I think is what it is. And I'm trying to digest all of them and wrap my brain around them so I say them correctly, but then at the same time I don't even understand exactly what each one does, so it's hard to say it correctly. So like, what's the difference between a power prism and a color prism and a prism? And it's just, yeah. I'm sure eventually we will understand it and it'll become more natural to talk about. But right now I'm a little like, was that changed just so you could say you changed something? Like, don't do that. I don't think that's what they're doing. And I'm not blaming Jeremy 100% on this because I know it's not all up to him what things are named. Hallmark, remember, is also in on this. The editor may have had some input. I don't know. I'm not blaming anyone. I just want to put that out there. I'm not shaking my finger at any one person. I'm sure this was like a group decision that many people were involved in to make these changes. So I'm just a little like, why did you have to make that many changes? But I'm sure I'll get used to it. It's just me and my being a fan for so very long. Yeah. But that quote from Harry Potter was a little too perfect. I had to throw it in here. Sorry. So anyway, back to the comic and the fun stuff. So Twink does a couple of hilarious things. There's a line about shrubbery, which made me laugh out loud, and he like blows a raspberry at the Shadow Hound, and it's really cute and funny. And then we see Lurky, and I like his new look as well. He does look different, but not as, I wouldn't say as different as the Feelin' Lurky from the most recent miniseries that Hallmark did. That I was a little less okay with. But this one, yeah, I mean, a little different. He's like a little taller. His legs are longer, so it's not just a big round body with itty bitty legs. His legs are a little longer. But he does still have, he's big, muscular, brown furry guy, but he doesn't have this super long elongated nose anymore, which again, I'm fine with. But he still very much looks like Lurky. He's got the antenna, and he acts just like Lurky. Maybe a little less slow, I guess you could say, than the old Lurky, but he's still the minion of Murky. He's definitely the underling. He still calls Murky boss. Murky still bosses him around and insults him and yells at him. So their dynamic is exactly the same as it's always been, and I love that so much. So, and so Wisp is like trying to get into his lair to get the Star Scepter, and she literally like accidentally runs straight into Lurky. So she screams, and at first he like roars like scary, and then he sees her and he screams, and he's like, "Oh my god, she attacked me!" So he's Lurky. He's adorable. I love that interaction. It was so very classic Lurky to be scared of Wisp. This little girl comes in, he's like, "Oh my god, what is that? She attacked me." So that's great. That's great. And I think I already mentioned, yeah, the Star Scepter looks different from the 2009 version, but I'm okay with that. Murky is still a junk collector. He's still got junk everywhere that most of it he has drained the color from to use as energy, and he has some back at the Dismobile that broke down that he couldn't get to his lair. That's like, there was a stop sign, there's a red stop sign in there, so I guess maybe he's going to Earth. Well, I'm not sure how he is doing it, because Twink used light to transport, and although Murky is gathering all of this color energy, so maybe he uses that to transport. I don't know. But he had a stop sign that looked like an Earth stop sign, so I don't know where he's getting all this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's still a junk collector, or a hoarder, whatever you want to call him. He still has mommy issues. His mother is mentioned. And there's a really funny quote. I did at least make a note of this one. It's like, as my mother always said, if you want something done right, stay out of the kitchen. Which is totally taking two idioms or sayings and smushing them together. It should be, if you want something done right, do it yourself, or if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. But I love that they put them together so that it makes no sense whatsoever, and it totally reminded me of Back to the Future when Biff always says, "Make like a tree and get out of here," when it's supposed to be, make like a tree and leave. You know, like leaves from a tree. Yeah, that made me laugh. That was good. Well, the way he spoke about his mom was in the past tense, and it could have just meant, yeah, back when I lived with her, she was a horrible woman. I hated being around her, but it also kind of sounded like she wasn't around anymore, so I hope she's not dead. I liked Murky's mom. But anyway, then the end. The huge payoff at the end. Wisp finds the Star Scepter and grabs it and is transformed. I mean, they don't call her Rainbow Brite, but she's transformed into Rainbow Brite. She's just missing the color belt still at this point. But everything else, except for the belt, is 100% Rainbow Brite. And she looks amazing. And it's like, I think it has 2 pages. Like, one page is like transformation, and it's like a few different panels kind of diagonally beside each other showing, or maybe it's 3 pages. I really should have brought it up here. But yeah, it shows the transformation in little bits, and then the very last page you see all of her, and she's just like, huh, that was weird. Classic Wisp! She's adorable! I love her! That's totally what she would say if something like that happened. Just, that's weird. But I also love, because I think I mentioned this before, on the cover art for issue 1, how the sleeves of Rainbow Brite, when she was Wisp as Rainbow Brite, were in rainbow order. They are! In the internal art too! They are in rainbow order! And that makes me so happy, because I've been wanting that for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And finally, it's an official artwork. This is not just my fan art anymore, and I don't even call it fan art. It was my fan coloring, I should say. It's not, this is official. I'm not saying it negates anything previous to it, obviously, but for the comics, it looks like her armbands are going to be in rainbow order, and that makes me super duper happy, and I just had to mention it. So I think that's everything for now. But again, it's like this big cliffhanger because she's still in Murky's lair, and you're like, how is she gonna get out of there? What's gonna happen next? So it's still cliffhanger, still left me like begging for more, like turn the page, like, wait, that's the end? No! I need issue 3, like yesterday. But that's what makes a good comic series. It keeps you, wanting the next issue. So they're doing a great job. I think the pacing is great. All of it. I love the writing. I love the art. I love the coloring. I love the lettering. I love the editing, I think. I mean, nothing against you, Kevin. I just don't know what was edited, so it's hard for me to know what to attribute to you. But I'm sure you do a great job. But yeah, it's fantastic. And issue 2 is going to have 2 covers. Paulina did the main one, and there's going to be another classic Hallmark cover. So look for both of those, and there are also going to be Virgin versions of those as well, without the text and the font and so forth on it. Like covers A and B are the regular ones, and covers C and D are the ones without the text. So be on the lookout for those if you want to collect them all like me. And I'm super excited to get the others. Yeah, it always takes me a little longer to get the Virgin ones, but I'm sure I will. So yeah, I don't know of any exclusives for issue 2. I don't think we're gonna have to collect 9 different covers this time around. As fun as that has been, yeah, it's just the 2. Well, 4. Sorry, the 2 regular and the 2 Virgin. But yeah. But I hope that you enjoy issue 2 as much as I did, and it makes your brain start worrying as much as it did to me. And this is fun for me, you guys, that we're like back in theorizing mode. Like, we haven't had a good reason to theorize in a while. I guess the last time was with the Feelin' miniseries, but even then we were a little just like, this is so different that I don't understand what could happen next with the Dark Princess being involved, and it was a lot. I think there was just maybe too many things happening with that, with Brian and Rainbow Land, and we never really got to talk to any of the color kids hardly, or get to know them at all. And then there was the Dark Princess and Murky and Lurky, and in 3 episodes that were super short. So so I'm hoping that this comic goes on for a really long time, and we can really dive deep into a bunch of these characters and get a lot more information, because this one had a lot more in it than I thought it would. So keep it up, team. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much. And I promise I don't hate you for all of the name changes. It's just my old curmudgeon-y brain is going to have to rewire itself to call the things the right things going forward. But you guys let me know what you thought of issue number 2 in the comments. We'll continue talking about it there. And until next time, have a rainbow day. Bye.